Hello, sci-fi fans. This is General Grievous from Star Wars, and you're listening to the Sci-Fi Diner podcast. Roger, Roger.
Good. All right. Well, talking about all things Star Wars, Miles, you and I had a chance to chat with the General himself, as well as Jyn Orso. I guess it was this summer. Tell me a little bit about this meeting.
So we had the opportunity to meet Ms. Sadler and Mr. Wood, Helen Wood, and Matthew Sadler. They were together. They're voice actors. Helen has done a lot of other live action, but right now, I guess her claim to fame is being a voice actor for Star Wars, and a lot of Star Wars fans came to that. But they were very kind as far as giving us some time to talk to them about their work and just some of the stuff they're doing in the Star Wars universe. So they were at Farpoint this past year, and we got to hang out with them and talk about all things Star Wars and their careers.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. Wood, of course. Who's the guy that played General Grievous? His name again?
The voice actor was Matthew Sadler.
Yeah, so Matthew Sadler, voice actor. I went up to him, not realizing it, and the story as to how he became Grievous was absolutely fascinating. This guy was a sound engineer, began playing with sound when he was a preteen, I think, and lived just down the road from Lucas Ranch, which, by the way, I can't imagine doing that. Got hired by Lucas Ranch and began doing a lot of their audio. And when the General Grievous came up, I'll let him tell the story. I won't ruin it. But just a fantastic interview. Just listening to the two of them just talk about how they got the roles and how they represented them. And yeah, it was fantastic. And I'm sure we'll see Grievous back again on the screen sometime. But yeah, so without further ado, this was our interviews with the General Grievous and Jyn Orso, the animated characters at least. And we'll be back right after that to finish up with a little bit of dessert.
I heard you were a sound engineer, so don't judge me too harshly here.
No, it's all right. Oh, you're going to use that mic?
Right?
I don't know.
You're like
This guy knows his stuff.
I'm joking. I'm kidding.
I'm Scott Hertzog.
Helen, nice to meet
Yes,
you.
pleasure
Miles,
to meet you.
Hi, Miles.
So,
How's it going?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yes.
Do you want us to be closer? Do you want to?
I could, you can just put it right in the middle, though. That'll work.
Yeah.
Your voice matter, not ours, but...
Delighted to talk to both of you. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Diner podcast.
Hey, thanks a lot. Good to see you.
Great being here.
Yeah, it is. So, let's start with you.
Yeah.
Audio engineering, was that your background, mostly?
I mean, I started pretty early at Lucasfilm as a kid, so it was. I'd always had an ear for sound. My grandfather worked in broadcasting, and so I would play with his reel-to-reel tape recorders as a kid. And then my dad used to do business in Japan, and so he'd come back with really amazing electronics. And one of them was a little cassette recorder that I used to run around with and play with as a kid. So, and I'd watch Star Wars on TV and record it and make fake interviews with Darth Vader. And so I always loved sound. And then I got a Macintosh when I was 14 in 1987 or something, and then there was a sound recording tool on there you could play with, and so it was always something I had a passion for. And then I got an opportunity to work at Lucasfilm, and doing video games. But then that George Lucas wanted a young kid to come and work in the sound division to try to sort of work on his development of a sound application he made called SoundDroid, which was a nonlinear editing system for sound that we were going to use to make the Star Wars prequel. So that was my path into sound.
Wow,
So
that's
and then I've never left. So
and how much, as a young kid, what a dream to work for Lucas.
yes,
You know?
it was one of those kind of moments where right place, right time. Also, just having a skill set which George liked, and it happened to be near me, and I had a supportive family, and the ability to go and work there and
Right.
drive, to this destination, Skywalker Ranch, that was somewhat close by. But yeah, very,
Yeah.
very, very, very humbled by it, and a lovely team of people that we work with out there. So yeah.
So you probably not only saw technology change, but you probably saw it invented before your eyes.
Yeah, that was we came in at that sort of point between when analog technology was kind of coming to an end, which was tape-based editing, and we were getting into the computer. And that's George Lucas wanted to make more Star Wars movies, but he wanted to have the freedom to work in a digital realm, to be able to change and work sort of out of sequence and non-linear, and be able to make quick adjustments. And that was what computers were for. So he wanted that tech, and he invested his own money into developing technologies to serve him to make those movies. And so that was, we invented it as we went, because we were being sort of bankrolled by the creator of the show, George Lucas. So that was a very unique place to be, and also when he wanted things, and he never really threw his name around, but if I went to a technology company that I was saying, hey, I like what you're doing, but could you also do this and maybe develop this? We might use it on Star Wars. You would get a lot of response for yes, and a lot of developers that I worked with in my early time out there, really, it was a lot of eager and enthusiastic folks to make something that you want to work with. So that was a great thing to be part of Star Wars during that time, and watch technology change and be part of making that change. Yeah.
Now, both of you have ended up voice acting then for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you ended up in Bad Batch and some of the other Star Wars stuff.
Well, my route was sort of traditionally through the acting route that's laid out for a lot of people. I did youth theatres, drama lessons, school plays, all of that, and then I went to drama school, went to university, and then I went to drama school in London. And I moved to Chicago, actually, after graduation, and did a lot of theatre. So I really got grounded in the theatre scene in Chicago, and that was my path into voiceover. So a lot of voiceover actors are theatre actors, because you're using your voice as an instrument. You have to be flexible and imaginative, and often see worlds around you that aren't there.
Right.
So rather than having a set and real people, you have to kind of act with people who aren't there. And often a lot of times in the theatre, there's a lot of black box acting with very little around you, So yeah, I got a voiceover agent in Chicago, and my first job in Star Wars was actually the Old Republic. Star Wars, the Old Republic, the video game.
Right.
And that sort of started me off in the Star Wars world. And what's great about voiceover in particular is quite often when you're working in a game or an animation, you often meet a lot of the same people. So people bounce from project to project. So often if you've worked on one thing, they bring you back for another character in something else. Or you voice match a character and then you play them across all the platforms.
Right.
So Rey, for example, I remember getting that audition. I was in Los Angeles at that point, and my agent in Los Angeles was like, oh, there's an audition for you. This is top secret, because no one knew that they were doing sequels.
Right.
It's completely, secretive. But the audition said she's like a young female Han Solo with a London accent. And I thought, oh, well, that's me. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have a go at this. And when I read the script, I was like, I don't know. I mean, it says she's like a female Han Solo, but I was like, I wonder if this is a Star Wars project. And I was like, I don't know. Anyway, and I was given one tiny snippet of dialogue that was from Daisy from the film, because I had to voice match.
Right.
And out of context, one tiny line, I had to listen to it over and over. And I was like, oh, okay, she sort of sounds like this, which is like, I think the line was, what's your hurry, thief? This droid says you stole that jacket, it belonged to his master, something like that. And so I heard that and I was like, oh, okay. And then I had other lines I had to do in that voice. So that's how I got cast as the Rey voice.
That's awesome.
And so that was a Lego project I did, which came out before the movie. I mean, we recorded it before the movie came out. So then I saw the movie and I was like, oh, well, now I know who she is. I may have done a few things differently, but anyway. So I carried on playing Rey, and then I'm trying to remember how the Bad Batch specifically came around, that role. I mean, I'd done a lot of stuff in different video games, but I was cast by Dave Filoni to play Jyn Erso, so I voice matched Jyn Erso. I did her in Battlefront and then Forces of Destiny. So I was in that world doing various characters in different animations and games. And then I think the casting director Lindsay had used me in various animations and games, and so I think I was offered the role of Dr. Scolder in Bad Batch, and that was fun because it's always fun playing baddies or goodies,
Right.
It's challenging for you to take an established character like
Yeah.
Ray or Peggy Carter, or
Yeah.
do original characters like this character. We don't know much about her yet, except what's on the script. But what is more challenging for you in that?
That's a good question. I mean, what's challenging in a voice match is you have to honor another actor's performance. So, I've done Captain Phasma, Jyn, Peggy Carter, obviously Ray. So you want to be true to the character they've built, but you're getting new lines. So it's finding that where the voice sits for that character, how you feel they would probably respond to those circumstances, but they're new circumstances. And what was actually quite fun was when I played Darth Ray in Lego Rebuild the Galaxy. I was playing Ray if she was a Sith.
Yeah.
So that was fun because it was something that we did see Daisy do that a little bit in The Rise of Skywalker when she had that moment as Dark Ray. But I got to develop that. So that was like quite a fun challenge. And then when you get a new character, of course, you're building your own creation with the director and with the script. And that's always, a fun thing to get to, be someone you've never seen before. And I think maybe one of the challenges there is trying not to repeat what's been done already, find a new way into somebody's conflict, and what's going on with them. Yeah.
And then Grievous,
Yeah.
the voice. Obviously, you were in the world already doing sound editing.
Right.
And
Right.
So how did that all transpire?
Oh, it was another one of those fortuitous things where George was looking for a particular voice for the character. He had a very distinct, scary bone-looking face with these cat eyes, and I remember seeing the first image of it from Star Wars Insider. It was the cover shot, and I was like, "Whoa!" Because we were working on the movie, but at that point, it wasn't totally fleshed out. The design, we were still in pre-production. And when I saw that, I was like, "Oh wow, I wonder what that's going to sound like," And so we kind of had a lot of back and forth with the kind of voice that George wanted, and I was involved in that process of coming up with what it was going to sound like from a technical standpoint in the movie. He was going to have the fiction of it is that he's some form of biological creature that's been injured, and he has these cybernetic attachments to make him be able to live again and also attack, and be a force for the separatists. But so it was a synthesized voice that was supposed to take place, and I was coming up with what that part would sound like. I would take an actor's performance and run it through this process with my colleague Chris Scarabosio at Skywalker Sound, and George would listen to the voices that we were doing from the casting agent Robin Gerlin, and he'd be like, I kind of like this one, but maybe I like bits of that one and this one, and he wasn't really hitting on one, and so we just kept going with it. And my colleague Chris was like, on the last batch we had made, he's like, you should put your own voice in there. You should do one. And I was kind of reticent because no, that's ridiculous. I don't want to. He's like, you've been listening to everything George said. Just do one. Just put it in there. And he kind of had to convince me. And I had just come off I'd done this really intense acting program right before I'd started working on the film. And so I was kind of a little bit emboldened by that to be like, okay, fine, I'll try it. And then about a week after I'd submitted the batch to George to listen to, I got a call from the producer, Rick McCallum, saying, hey, George picked a voice. And I had given him file names that had the initials of every actor in the file name. And he's like, it's this initials. and it wasn't any initial that I had on my list of all the actors. I was like, what is that? Because it wasn't. I used a pseudonym when I did it for myself, and I had already forgotten. So I was looking at the list, going, "That's not. None of those actors have those initials. What is this?" And then I was like, "Oh wow, that's me." And so that was a little, a lot of emotions happening at that point because you're like, "Do I tell them? Do I act like it's missing, or do I get some other actor to impersonate me so they can get it?" Like, but no. I just was like, I'm gonna just tell him. I said, Rick, that's me. And he was like, "What? Okay." George is like talking to everybody around the office that we've got we've got the voice. So okay, and then so I waited by the phone. About five. He told George, and an hour or so later, I get the call, and he's right down the road from me, and hey, I hear you're going to be Grievous. That's great. We'll record it tomorrow. I'm so happy.
That's pretty good.
That is.
Yeah. So he was into it, and then we had a blast recording it, and my buddy Chris recorded us, and it was just like everything at Lucasfilm. My experiences when I worked with George, it was very independently minded. George is very accessible, and once you're sort of in his group there and he feels comfortable with you, it just feels like a bunch of friends just kind of working on a movie, and that's what we did. And we never really did overtime, and it was pretty decent, hours. Obviously, we're at Skywalker Ranch, which is this beautiful location, and so it was very conducive to creating these movies in an environment where you just felt like you could be creative, and it was a very rare situation. So I didn't even really understand the enormity of what it was until after we had. I in fact didn't even believe it was going to be real until I knew, because I work in movies, like, okay, now we've got to the point in this process where if they wanted to replace me, it would cost money.
Right.
Because now we've
What a great position to be.
we've printed everything. It's going to go to start to be distributed now. The foreign language versions are being made. Like it's like we're done. So I was like, I guess I'm in there, because I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell any of my family, because I was expecting it at the last minute for George to be like, okay, well, that was
Nice
fun.
try.
Let's go get the actual. But no, and my colleagues who were working on it all liked it too. They're like, wait a minute, that's you? Because I told my colleagues, but who were working on the movie, and they all thought it was really good. So it was nice. But that's just how that sort of materialized. And George, during the very end, he was like, your life's going to change. And I said to him, I've been working for you for 15 years already. You've changed my life quite considerably. And he's like, no, this is different. You're going to have a different experience now.
That's awesome.
Because now it's a different it's a whole different thing. And I was like, okay. But and it was. I mean, he was right in the fact that I get the chance to now, go to conventions and meet people, and also projects I work on now when I'm, 52 years old, and I'm working with directors that they find out that anecdote, or they know me as a voice actor now, and it's like, hey, that's you created Grievous, and it's nice because it's a nice door opener, and as George said, it did change my life, definitely for the positive.
Right.
And I have it's a voice acting role, and I do like my anonymity, so I don't have to. It's not like my face is recognized. So
I walk out the street
I can have.
There's three.
I can have a completely normal life. We're both like, we don't have to deal. It's just nice. I enjoy. Only at like the Star Wars fan convention at Celebration is the only time I get like multiple people going, hey, and that's fun for a weekend. But I'm like, it's nice to be able to turn it off and be like, I can have a life. So
You do sometimes get stopped in supermarkets and things.
That happens occasionally. But like not enough where it's a hindrance to my life. It's actually quite. I like talking about this kind of stuff. It's fun.
Right. Well, so have you been to Skywalker Ranch then, or is this kind of?
I have, yeah, I've been a few times.
Okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's just absolutely stunning on a lake, and it's like in this little town called Nicasio in NorCal. And I believe George owns the whole valley around it.
Yeah.
This Valley Road. So it's a really, really stunning. And he has a vineyard, or and if he's still
Yeah,
owns
no,
it now.
he does. Yeah, yeah.
So there's a vineyard nearby as well, which makes
Skywalker wine. And, yeah.
Yeah,
We
so
had
it's
a
just
chance to
gorgeous.
chat with Sam Witwer.
Oh, yeah, we know Sam.
Yeah,
Worked
he
with
was,
Sam a lot.
so he had done a lot of the voice work too, and
Yes.
and that sort of. So future projects for you guys. What do you have coming up that you can plug or talk about that you aren't like under an
Don't know
NDA?
if we're allowed
I don't
to
know if
talk
we're,
about
I mean, the
anything.
things that they've announced that are in production, I'm sure we'll have some hand in, which is Dave Filoni is a good colleague of ours. So we've worked with him. I've worked with him, everything he's done at Lucasfilm. So I love to support him. So obviously we're working on it. We're producing a new Mandalorian movie.
Right, excited about that.
Yeah, Mandalorian and Grogu, which Dave's an EP on with Jon Favreau, who's directing. So we'll have involvement in that. And then straight after that, we're shooting a second season of Ahsoka.
Can't wait for that either.
So that's
Love
all.
that.
That's all going, and we, most folks at Skywalker are pretty loyal. We pick our people that we like to work with, and we stay on that. And we've got a great group of folks that we've worked with. So
Yeah, some animation things in the pipeline, I believe.
Yeah. So
Just get a live action role for you, Miss Sadler.
Yeah, I mean, from your lips to executive ears.
But
You've been trusted with these other characters. I think we can trust you with it.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. That'd be nice.
So,
It was fun seeing Skeleton Crew
yeah.
come out and be so well received because we did a lot of voices on that. And
Did you do any voices?
I did in the beginning. I mean, I did loot group, so I'm all over it in various, sort of aliens and background and pirates and whatnot. But in particular, in the first episode, I was the teacher droid, who's like a very boring, the fungibility of teaching the kids to be
the
good citizens.
The kid has to go to the
act at him.
bathroom, and you're all sit down or whatever you say.
Oh yeah, in the test.
In the test room, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a nanny droid in the home of the little girl who comes home, and I try and figure out how to lie for her.
Yeah.
And so I played some droids in that in the beginning, which is always fun. To just practice your droid voices. But live action.
Yeah, you did in Ahsoka. You did that really assassin-y one too.
Oh yeah, the assassin droid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dark droid. Right, hello sci-fi fans. This is Helen Sadler. I'm the voice of Rey in Lego Rey and across the Star Wars universe. You're listening to the Sci-Fi Diner podcast. And I just bypassed the compressor, so you should be able to hear this fine.